Record.
Okay.
Welcome to another episode of the Love in Reality podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valera. I am excited to have Leah from the Positively Uncensored Podcast joining me today to break down our thoughts post Love is Blind season 5, whether it's the reunion or all the drama that is happening all over social media. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm excited to get into this. It's been Love is Blind all over my For You page, all over my timeline everywhere. So I'm kind of excited to talk about it and then move on to other shows that are going to take its place.
Exactly, yeah, because if I know correctly in the conversations I've had, like 6 and 7 haven't been filmed yet, I don't think. Or maybe they have, or maybe I don't know. But it's definitely going to be a while before we get another season of it. And there's a lot of stuff on or coming on that you guys can have your eyes on. But so the Love is Blind season 5, it's crazy to me to really kind of look back. What I think that I saw something that you said that I might have to start doing is you go back and rewatch. Why? When did you start doing that? And why did you maybe start doing
I do that when I'm wrong. I do that. So I do that when I say something and I get that you didn't see it right, go back and watch, and I'll go back and I'll watch. Or I do it if I'm going to come out with a really hard opinion. It's something I'm going to stand in, say with my chest, and I want to go back and make sure that I'm right before I go on there and said, I've rewatched. First time I watched, I glossed over this, but truly, I did it with Johnny and Stacy. There's nothing that really happened here that we're upset at Johnny for. So it's if I'm confused too.
it's funny to me because like so much happened between Johnny and Stacy that we didn't see apparently, right? You know what I mean? Or maybe it never even really happened. Who knows? Because there's so much hatred there that I think when it's funny to watch the reunion, like even um Johnny and what's his name? I forget it. Chris, right? Chris?
Yes.
No, Chris. I'm mad at him now. He's in my shit list
Shit
now for what
list.
he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the shit list now. But like they're conversating while they're talking about it. I'm just like, there's like no respect here at all. You know what I mean? Like there's just
Did
like
you
that
like it or hate it?
they were talking about it. I
Yeah.
mean, is it slightly disrespectful? Absolutely. Do I care? No. I think it's really good drama.
It really made me laugh. Like the fact that, and then I guess someone zoomed in on their lips and they were like, okay, can confirm that Chris was apologizing. Like he was
Yeah.
telling her, I'm sorry again. I know we're talking about this. I fucked up. This is awkward, whatever. But in
Yeah.
my head, I'm like, this bitch already said this all season. Like that's what I would have said. Like I would have been
Exactly.
like, Stacey, shut the fuck up because I'm petty like that. And
Yes.
I wouldn't do well on reality television.
Yeah, me neither. I wouldn't either. But the one thing that I think really loved about the reunion was our only couple that made it through the ringer, and that's Milton and Lydia. I love the affection that they showed towards each other because there's a lot of conversations everywhere. Are they still together? Are they not together? We found out they're apparently not living together, but that reunion was only filmed 3 weeks ago. You know what I mean? Typically, I know we got the live one recently, well, quote, quote, live
Live.
one recently, but like it was filmed like 3 weeks ago. I'm rooting for Milton and Lydia. I
Okay.
really am.
I feel like I am too, but I had this down to ask. Did they know about them living separately before the reunion, being that it was filmed 3 weeks ago? And if so, why not address it then?
Exactly. And I mean, apparently, as we've seen with some podcasts, apparently they edited out a lot from the reunion
Yep.
that I really am kind of shocked by. And you know what? This is the perfect spot. This is an idea that I want to pitch. Love is Blind. You're more than welcome to take it for free because you would anyway. So that being said, I feel like we need a solid. I would do like a solid 10 episode, like even 8 episodes to start the season of just the pods and
Okay.
the,
Yes.
and show everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And even if you make it like, let's just say you focus on 2 women in that for the first episode and 2 men for the first episode, and you see a cycle of all of the people they're talking about, and maybe eventually you dwindle it down. But I'm tired of not seeing things, especially in a
Agreed.
season where we had 2 couples make it past, well, technically, that we saw two
Right.
couples get engaged past Mexico. You know what I mean? We know there was a third with Renee and Carter, but like we only
Right.
saw even so three. We only saw what was it? You know, we only saw the three engagements. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like there was three engagements. That's it. So it's like I want to see more pods because I would love to see. And even at the end of the episode, hey, these two got engaged, but we didn't bring them to Mexico.
Agreed. Agreed. Or maybe like Big Brother, like let us watch. I don't know. Let us watch what's going on. I know that they can't show them because that defeats the whole purpose. So they're not all living in the same house. But at least if we could like tune in after and see like behind the scenes of the dates or like watch Enoch's date and like you can click on certain people's that you are liking and like follow their journey. They should definitely show more context because it's also like who was on the cover for this season? I think it was Chandra or Linda, maybe her name's Lisa, my bad, whichever one it is, but they always dangle diversity as the covers and to promote these seasons. And then they, haha, just kidding. Like, here's the same white people again. I'm really tired of that as well because we had some really, like, we had a lot of diversity that they showed us pre-season to see two people actually make it to the altar.
And not to jump ahead to her, but with Aayliah, did she ever confirm? I know you watched her podcast with Jessica Wu. Did she confirm that what Uche said about the producers offering for them to go back on the show to be engaged? I know he confirmed that on a podcast where he said that while they were at that dinner or at that lunch or whatever, he said that the producers asked them, "Do you want to come back into the experiment as an engaged couple and join the other
Mm.
ones?" Now, he confirmed that, and obviously with Uche, it's like we talked about this a little bit jokingly off the air about taking like half of an interview. Like I don't take half of what Uche says. I take about 25% of what Uche says as true. Like there's some validity in some of what he says, but he's so all over the place for
I'll believe
me.
10% of what he said. I'll believe that he showed up there and I'll believe that he consented to be on TV. That's about
Right.
where it ends. That's
Exact
it.
exactly. And my thing with these shows is we all understand that editing can make somebody look like a villain. We've seen it 1,000 times. My problem with Uche is this: he had the opportunity for one of the best arcs in the history of Love Is Blind. If he goes to the barbecue and acts like a normal human being, apologizing to Milton and Lydia for how he acted in the pods, and maybe apologize to and just had full-fledged conversations, Uche is like a superhero now. Like if you think about Raven, Raven was one of the and I didn't love Raven early on in Love Is Blind. And then she became one of my favorite people that have ever been on this show, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that
See,
he
I
is
agree with
self-induced
you.
villain. He's a
Yes,
self-induced villain here.
exactly, because it's the consequences of his own actions. My problem with Uche is that he was such a narcissist from day one. In my mind, and I'm coming from a completely different lens, like just because I'm a woman, so I just view things differently. But when I saw him berate Aayliah over her infidelity, zero questions. Did he cheat on you? Which he did, by the way. He was unfaithful first to her, she says in an interview. Was he emotionally abusive to you? Do you feel like you were trapped in that relationship? No questions, just immediate persecution, and then no comfort, no accountability, flipping the script, really no ownership. Like, sure, he can't say that he cheated with Lydia, but just no accountability for willingly going into a marriage telling 50% of the truth. Like, you are a person who's okay with deceiving someone, and Milton knows the extent of his deception and he accepted it from Lydia, and he's ultimately like, that is my wife, like Borat. Like, it's my wife. Like, I don't care, he's young, he's like, whatever, fuck it, I've done fucked up things, I potentially had a girlfriend and left her to come on the show. I've seen worse, rumor on the street. But it just wasn't the same for what Aayliah experienced with Uche. And then at the barbecue, great point, he couldn't be civil. Like, to me, I thought that he had an issue with women of color all season, but specifically Black women because of how he treated Aayliah. And then you see him at the barbecue. He gets loud with Miriam. He uses bitter as an adjective to describe her, comes for her credentials, even though she said that they actually worked at the same job together. So he very much knows that she's legit. I just think he was so mean. He was so mean. I don't
Yep.
think, and I think that that's ultimately why he stayed back. Like, what do you think? Why he skipped?
I are you talking about skipping the reunion, right?
Right. Like, and do you
So
think that they should be
I
allowed to do that? Allowed. Like, they can't be forced to, but
I'm so, it's a rock and a hard place situation for me because I kind of know some of the stuff that went down with season 4, but see, he is such a pivotal point to a lot of what went down. Like
right.
with Milton and Lydia and Aayliah, and Milton had the way he handled him at the barbecue is one of the most impressive things
Agreed.
I've ever seen in my life. And I think a lot of people can learn from what Milton did, not just in that situation, but he even mentioned it. It's like that was before me. Like
Absolutely.
what that moment in the pods, Uche lost me when he's treated Aaliyah like crap. Once a cheater, always a cheater,
Yeah.
and then
Oof.
continued to berate her for like 15
Yes.
minutes. Like, first off, if I would have been Aaliyah, I would have walked out because you have that option in that moment because it's like, all right, cool, I'm done here. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I feel like I don't care if they get treated kind of like Josh and Jackie did in one way. But if you don't want them there or you feel like that person's going to be confrontational to the point where you can't control it, it's not live. You can edit it how you want to. And hearing Aaliyah's interview, we hear there was a big chunk of stuff that's edited. And obviously it has to be. It's an hour long. They probably sat there for maybe 2 or 3 hours and talked about a lot of different things. They're editing a TV show. They need to make it dramatic, and they need to make certain people look good because we only had one successful relationship come
That's
out of
it,
this. You know what I
ultimately.
mean? So they really
Right.
needed Milton and Lydia to come out and shine bright at the end of the day with this. I understand why they did it. Is it right? No. But I feel like it's going to be written in contracts moving forward that you have to
Absolutely.
be at the reunion. Now, with Uche does say that he had a business trip planned at the same time where he had to be in Mexico. I
He probably
understand that.
booked it once he got the details of the reunion. He's like, February 18th, I'll be in
Somebody
Mexico.
somebody backdate me an email that says that I had to
Yeah.
be in Mexico for work. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
but I feel like you have to face the music, and that's it. Like
Absolutely.
we've seen that in the past. Shane,
Yes.
Shaq, um, anybody else that's ever not been. I mean, and not to. I'm not giving this person any sort of credit because they don't deserve it. But JP showed up.
For what reason, we don't
Now,
know, but he showed up. He's
now,
there.
now, mind you, I had a massive issue with the handling of JP on that reunion. I feel like they babied him. I felt like Nick tried to be his savior for some ungodly known reason by kind of, I don't feel like he came out and protected him, but he was like, well, I really feel like you meant to say, no, we
He did.
know what,
You're right.
yeah.
Yes.
What made me even worse is I'm not a fan of Vanessa's at all.
Me
And I
either.
think that she crosses way too many lines, but
Absolutely.
she never has any issues crossing lines. I can't believe she sat there and did not get super defensive in favor of Taylor as a woman. You know what I
I
mean? Like,
can because she's misogynist. Like she gets defensive for men. Like she was, like she doesn't, or I'm sorry, she gets defensive asking women questions. Like when she asks women questions, it's answer for this or Johnny, what do you think about yourself sitting over there all sly and smug? Like, actually, bitch, I feel pretty good. Okay.
exactly.
Like even when Shake said to her, you're the most attractive woman in the room, she can't cut that smirk off of her fucking face. You know what I mean? Like it's like, and
Yeah.
sure, like granted, that's funny. I mean, it might have astonished me enough to where a laugh escaped my mouth as well. But she always does that. And she makes women uncomfortable, like asks them, when is the baby coming? Or why couldn't you do more? And it's weird that they gave the two people who deserved the most accountability, the most defense at the reunion, because despite Uche not being there, the whole point of bringing Aayliah on was to really be like, hey, sorry about your bad experience, but look at Milton and Lydia. They also had to deal with Uche in some regard, and things turned out fine. So suck it up. Better luck with your new boyfriend, and JP, no question as to like, what was he signaling with his patriotic gear all season? Like, what was he intending without saying anything? Or can we see some photos of your ex-girlfriends? Like, what do they
Yeah.
look like? I would have liked to just something direct.
Yeah, and it's you paint around the bush, but like that's the problem. If you act like that, if Vanessa acts like that with everybody, fine. You want to be the
Agree.
non-pushy host, then don't be the non-pushy host. Be that with everybody. But you're pushy about the dumbest things ever. You know what I mean? Oh, what does hooking up mean these days? Come on, like, God. So, and you know what? It was so funny. If you watch it back, and I urge everybody to do this, if I'm almost positive Nick shushes her or he like says something.
He does.
He,
I saw that he like digs into her or something. It's
like
you're already
he's like,
embarrassing me. We hooked up last night.
Nick, do you know what? Did you know hooking up means sex? And he was trying to ask a question. And he kind of like nudged her and said like he made like a verbal noise before asking the question that he wanted to. And it was like, if you're going to be consistent, be consistent. You know what I mean? And speaking of Aayliah, I know you said you not to promote it. What are some of the big takeaways that you took from her interview
Yeah.
that we didn't really kind of get to see or hear in that reunion?
So a lot. I feel like number one, she was best friends in the pod with JP. She had no idea that he wore red, white, and blue every day, that he was going to be the type of guy who would ridicule a woman based off of her makeup and appearance. And she was super shocked when she like actually physically saw him, and when she like watched everything back. Like she was just like, that's not my pod bestie. Like that's not who I was picturing myself talking to. So I learned that. We learned that despite Uche online trying on his stories to dispute that he ever said anything negative about Aayliah's appearance, that there was actually a group text allegedly that was going on between the men in the pods, and he had sent Aayliah's pictures in the group text and said that he's not attracted to her, and his comments were concerning enough that 5 separate men, one of them being Izzy, who did speak on it at the reunion, addressed Aayliah and said, hey, we just don't know, like, are you okay? Like, how are you coping with talking to someone that doesn't find you attractive? So he said it to her that she typically like wasn't his type or whatever. So that was surprising to me that there was so much concrete proof. And she also said that I don't think threatens the right word, but I don't know what other word to use, but he just sort of said allegedly, hey, if you keep coming at me, like, fine, I'll show everybody who you are. I'm going to show the world some text messages of yours that you sent me during this experience that weren't very nice. And how she feels is, you're not going to use a past version of myself that's highly manipulated, in trauma, can't decide what to do, to use against my character now as somebody who's healed. So I thought it was interesting that he's even going so far as to be like negative towards her and dispute her own experience with him. Other main points is just she tried to leave, like at least multiple times. She tried to leave twice before she ever even knew about Milton and Lydia. And I guess I thought too that it was easy to just walk off from a situation, but it seems like it's not. I guess I won't say that they're imprisoned. They're not stuck or locked in the room, but it sounds like there's someone there constantly that's like, don't leave, like give it another second. That's not what they meant. Like, just go back in there. Like you have 2 hours left of your date, give them 30 more seconds and then you can leave if you want to, so it seems like they test you to go against your gut the entire time. That's pretty much it. Ultimately, too, she was happy that Lydia fucked up and said all the details, because had she not, she would have never known that they're telling two separate stories. She doesn't believe Lydia told any lies. She believes everything that she said was true to the extent of their relationship. And she felt like she never got any answer as to what they talked about with each other before they arrived. So those are the main points that I took away.
Yeah, so it's interesting to say because Uche has been doing the Instagram story thing like a madman. You know what I mean? Like that's been his
Right.
favorite thing to do is I'll answer your questions here and then I'll answer more later. And it's like the more you say, dude, the more you're like digging your own grave here. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like these women all have come out very strongly against what you're saying. Like you have an opportunity to like own it. Hey, I acted a certain way I'm not proud of, and even even like Lydia, you know what I mean, like it's hard to take some of what she says a little bit seriously, but even she's like, I acted the way I felt like I needed to in that moment. You know what I mean? Like you don't know how you're going to act a certain way in a moment until you act that certain way in that moment. You know what I mean? Like it's not everybody handles things the way Milton did and being like, hey bro, cool, like cool story bro. But like to find out Uche had texted everybody like right before the show had aired and like try to communicate with Milton before the wedding or after the wedding, like and to find out like he was more active. We even heard him say bad things about Lydia to Milton in the pods. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he didn't have a whole lot of nice things to say about her.
Mm-hmm.
But I I don't know, man. It's one of those things that I find interesting and good for Aayliah. Like I feel like maybe she like let's get her on like a good reality show. You know what I mean? Like,
Agreed. Or let
you
her be
know,
in peace and just, I guess she's having some sort of, she filmed her process. So she has a video from like
I'm
start to
excited
end.
about that.
Me too. People are like, anyone who thinks negatively of cast members wanting to tell their own stories, I would implore you to think about what it's like if you just got fired from a job, or if you just had the most traumatic experience of your life and it was told for you and not your own words, and you could never, ever, ever clear things up. Nope, that's you now. Like it's wild to me that people don't want to hear more. And if you don't want to hear it, then don't hear it. Don't make videos about how you don't need to hear from any cast member, because there are always people who were done way worse than we have any knowledge of, and they should have the right to talk about it.
I remember I did an interview with Brandy from season 4, and they're like, "Who is this girl?" And I'm like, and it was come to find out, like it was one of Brett's like other matches. You know what I mean? That we didn't see. Like her and Brandy. I mean, him and Brandy had
Oh,
connected, and
yes.
like they were to like they were communicating pretty heavily, and he
Right.
even said in an interview afterwards when he did, he's like, who do you think the most attractive member of the cast was? And he even said Brandy. You know
I
what I
saw
mean?
that.
Like
Yes.
which I mean that was a dumbass thing for him to say, but that's beside the point.
You're right.
But you're right though, because the difference is like we have the Renee and Carter situation where it was filmed, it was shot, but no narrative got spun because we didn't see it. With
Right.
Aayliah, you see what she shot, you see the narrative spun, and there is an avenue where you see it like Uche and Aayliah are both not great human beings, but and I've seen that spun that they're like, I
That's
don't
how
even
some
like
people have tried to say it. They're like,
right.
she was unfaithful. You can't justify being unfaithful no matter what you're enduring in the relationship. And it's like, just say you hate women and move on, because that, to me, that's
Exactly.
what that means.
Yeah, I mean, how many and myself, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've been faithful my entire existence, but that's not, just because I hate the additive that once a cheater, always a cheater, and it's just the way he said everything. I just it
Agreed.
makes it made my skin crawl when he was sitting, and it just thinking about it makes my skin crawl. We're gonna move on from Uche before I just can't.
Yes.
Like I just can't. And I'm gonna move on from JP too because I have a lot. I will forever not like how he treated Taylor and Nick and Vanessa really pissed me off at the reunion how they handled that situation too. Because again, and even so, rightfully so, you back Uche over the bus at the
Right.
reunion. Had no problem running him over, backing him over, running him over again. But yet JP sitting on that couch and you had no desire to push and pull.
It
Speaking of
makes
one of the
no
couples
sense.
that
Yeah.
made it to the altar that, said no, one said yes. Where are you at on the Stacy Izzy situation?
I think that they brought out the worst in each other during their relationship. I think that that's a generous way of saying things. I think that misogyny really did the damn thing this season. So Izzy gets very little blame. His hands are pretty clean. He let Stacy and Johnny do a lot of the dirty work with each other. But the real problem, I'll say it, I'll die on this hill. The real problem is that he told women negative things about one another. He told Stacy how his connection differed from Johnny. He told Johnny, and I only remember her specifics because I watched it recently, that he doesn't connect emotionally with her. He can't get deep with her. Something's just different with her. He doesn't feel safe enough to tell her about his credit. I mean, every single thing that they said really about one another that ended up in a screaming match was things he said and his opinions that he told them. And it was crazy to see Stacy be so dick crazy that she really let him, like, I don't know, like he must have a big one. Like she just let that flabbergast her brain because she didn't hold him accountable for pretty much anything. She knew immediately that they weren't compatible as soon as she saw his apartment. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, I'm 100. Like this is you nailed on the head. I'm 100% team Stacy here. Like, I don't feel like I feel like a lot of it's being blown out of proportion. Towards her. The love means flying first class. I find nothing wrong with that statement. Is it make you sound bougie? Does it make you sound like you're hoity-toity? Sure, maybe it does. But the
Right.
thing about it is love flying first. It means flying first. Doesn't mean you have to fly first class every time or whatever that looks like. But it's at the same time, it's like I like nice things. I work hard for my things. I work hard for what I have. I'd like to do nice things. You know what I mean? That's what
Right.
her father is worked hard for what he has. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he likes doing nice things. I raised my daughter to like nice things and expect nice things. So when you're entering the picture, Izzy said during the reunion, I spoke to other people about my credit score and my bad credit and all of these things. I didn't tell Stacy. Why didn't you tell Stacy? You know what I mean? Like you bold-faced
To
lied.
trick her,
Like
obviously.
exactly. And it's like I he's on this trying to be on this redemption arc by doing that man's podcast twice now. And
Oh
I've
man.
watched it both times and I don't like it's made me like him even less. Like the
Right.
whole like credit score thing. Oh my, well then he asked, what was your credit score? 580. Now think about this for a minute. I did not have a great credit score when I got married. A couple, 5 years ago. I didn't. My credit score was not great. But when you're going into a relationship with somebody, that information you let them know on the front half. Hey, I'm rough credit. I'm working on it. How can we work on it together to get me to here? Like you're thinking about marrying somebody in 3 weeks or whatever this process is. You're going to talk about buying house together. You can't in this economy with a bad credit, you can't get shit. Like you
Right.
can't. Like they're not going to give you. Like you have to think about these things: cars, future, family, housing, all of these things. You make it sound like it's nothing, and people are like, "Oh, it's just credit." No, it's not just credit. That's part of the partnership that we have here. But I
It's
think,
crazy. Did you see any articles, not to interrupt you, but did you see any of the articles that's like really like digging into Stacy? Because it's so interesting to me. I don't like rich people typically. Like I'm just going to be honest. I'm
yeah,
an eat the rich type person. I'm a
yeah,
support the ants. I'm a ground worker. When
yeah,
it doesn't bother me to hear someone say they want to fly first class. Actually, I think that's hilarious. It more bothers me the attitude that she had. Like when he said, for example, that he's never traveled anywhere. Like that's me. Like I've been that person in that scenario who said
yep,
that. And somebody richer than you and wealthier than you says, really? You've never left Ohio? Like, okay, uncultured. And really, you just lived like below your means. And so she felt a little classist, I will say.
Agreed.
But a lot of her reactions was him knowingly depriving her of information. And I think she's judgy because when I read that, it's like Stacy's never really worked, allegedly. Like, so she works for her dad, but her dad pays for her home, her dad pays for her bills, everything's in her father's name. It's like that classic situation of you have wealthy parents and you need someone to replace your father. And she wants someone who's 45 years old, established, and ready to put their checkbook in her pocketbook and replace daddy's Amex with someone else's.
Yeah.
And to me, sure, I would love to be taken care of, not have to pay. But there's a difference between I'd like to not have to worry about rent every day of the week and I want to fly first class to Bermuda. You know what I mean? Like it's a difference
Big
in need,
difference.
necessity versus not.
Yeah. I do think like the paper plate thing, I thought that was blown out of proportion. First off,
Same.
like if you know anything about having a house or owning a house, and paper plates are much better than having to wash dishes, warning the dishwasher, like all of those things. Like obviously, yes, I have real plates at my house, but like paper plates are great too. Like they're
Right.
they're fantastic. Paper
Right.
cups, paper, you just throw the shit away. You know what I mean? And move on with your life.
Uh-huh.
But and then the stupid things where I'm like, all right, I'm Team Izzy over here, and then you had this stupid drawer thing. Just throw the shit away. Like,
Throw it away.
I'm
Why?
sorry. All Izzy said was like, you just want me to be a fuck boy. No, bro, you are a fuck boy.
No, you are, dude. And you wanted her to
Like,
know that you have other options outside of this
yes,
show in case
yes.
anything goes wrong. In my opinion, he's like, I'm not throwing away Hannah's like hair tie. She might come over next Sunday if me and Stacey don't work out. I don't care.
Exactly. I've got options once you
Yeah,
leave. And
exactly.
one thing I hated about Izzy and Stacy was we had the weird moment at the altar. He says now he knew 2 days before. And she said this at the reunion, like you knew I was going to say no. And he was like, part of him was like, oh, I thought maybe that there was still a
You might
chance, but
change
I
your
said
mind.
yes.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, nah, bro. Like, I feel like she knew like very early in the process. But you sit there. What made me mad was is they said she's like, I hope you understand. And he's like, yeah, I understand. And then they kiss. And then like 20 minutes later, it's like, I don't know if I can do this. Like,
And he's
it's
like
not like
33-year-old. I'm not surprised you're single. Like age shaming her. I'm like,
right.
what's going on here?
Like you went from I understand to her like, and she had said like, she said right there, I'm willing to continue this. I'm really, we're taking a step back. Yeah, sure, you're going from an engaged about to be married, and I understand that might be like an ego thing for a guy or whatever, but like you're getting married in 3 weeks. That's very difficult to really unpack. That's a lot. You know what I mean? Like if you flip a switch and say we're getting married, like you're saying, she said, I'm willing to work on this. I'm really, we need to put together and work on things. It wasn't like she ran out of the altar like she was Natalie. Like, I'm never going to see you again, even though we know that didn't happen either. But like, I'm never going to see you
Right.
again type of situation. It was hey, I said no now, but there's a possibility of a yes in the future.
I feel like her body language said it all. If you've ever said that to someone and not meant it, like I
Yeah.
have, you can
Yeah.
like, all right, well, you never know. See
Yeah.
you in the future, maybe. Then you're
Yeah.
like,
I love
like
I love the way she called his ass out about the whole Johnny thing too. Which I mean,
he
you said a
wants
lot of
Johnny. Like he
yes,
wants she spoke no lies. He wanted to be with Johnny. He was physically attracted to her. He was shaking when Chris said he was going to pursue him. I'm like, I'll give you a lot of leeway because I know restless leg, I know anxiety, but the reason that he's so amped up and anxious is because the girl that he was hoping would be open if things don't work out with Stacy is now going to go out with his best friend. So it's kind of chaos for him.
yeah. Well, I think, and you know what, my final touches on Love Is Blind before we talk about what is in store for our future of reality TV that we could share some potential upcoming things that are coming out so for people to enjoy or what we're watching now. What do you feel about the Renee and Carter situation?
I feel like I feel like there's no way to ever really know what happened, but I pride myself on truly trying to be like solidarity with women. And it's such a hat to label yourself as a victim of something and then wear that forever and like not mean it. It's a lot of shame, it's a lot of comments, it's a lot of outside opinions brought to your door. And I think that people forget that you really wouldn't speak up and put yourself through all of that unless something happened. And for me, her storyline, she doesn't even have to add that to have an interesting storyline. So for me, it's just like she could have just said, hey, me and Carter were actually getting married. And on the day of the wedding dress, like, hey, that's me there. I was there because I was supposed to be getting married. She could have just said that and everyone would have weighed in. So I don't feel like she's saying something to spite him. I feel like her interpretation of it was he scared her. And his interpretation was his emotions got hijacked and he reacted in the worst possible way that you could probably.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it's like, I'm with you. I'm always like support the victim. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if we talk about this, it's like if you take 50% of what Renee says, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And the producers need to be held accountable for sure. They need to be better. If this show is going to continue, we need to ensure that these women feel protected on these sets. Like we don't, you can do as many, and I know that the psychological aspect of things that go into this process. There's a lot of tests that you have to take. There's a lot of different,
Mm-hmm.
personality tests and stuff like that. But I am also a firm believer that you can make anybody believe anything you want if you're good at lying. You know what I mean? Like, if again, if you
Or you
take
can believe you're a
50%,
good person and be a bad person too.
right, exactly, Uche. But the thing about it is like, it's crazy, but it's like I'm happy for her. She's getting to speak her truth, but at the same time, it's like the producers have every opportunity to really. I feel like there would have been a lot to benefit from us seeing Renee and Carter versus us not seeing Renee and
100%.
Carter. And that's the
Absolutely.
problem because
And
it's
that's
like,
why she wants to put it out there, I feel like, because why hide her? It's almost like, okay, so you hid their story. Why? And that's almost like, why would they hide her story unless something nefarious did happen? It's like, of they wouldn't hide a story that went well, So like
no, because
there's
this is
got
the
to be
first time
truth.
this ever happened. This is the first
Right.
time this has ever happened. Most of the time, you get engaged, you didn't make it to Mexico. No, Renee and
Exactly.
Carter
And two
went to
separate
Mexico.
couples went to Mexico, like,
Exactly. Renee and Carter, we went to Mexico. We went back to the apartments. Like, people
yes,
don't understand. It cost Connect a lot of money to edit them completely out of the show.
a
Like,
lot.
completely
How do
out
they
of the
even do
show.
it? How do they even,
Right.
no one
Because
knows.
people have like pointed out like little scenes in Mexico that you can see Renee. Like there was like clips
Who?
that you can like see the back of her head a little bit here. Because you think about that, like when you're in Mexico, there's always those scenes where the couples come together. And it was weird. Like it
It
was just
was weird this season. It was like not even fulfilling this season.
no.
Usually when they come together, it's a scene. Kwame and Micah talking for a while on Chelsea's birthday. Something big
Yep.
happens. Nothing
Yeah.
happened at this time. And
No.
I'm like, even that was odd because they probably had to cut out scenes or Renee was in the pool or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. The first time everybody meeting Renee, first time everybody seeing Carter, like, hey, it's you again. You know what I mean? Like all of that stuff was good. And then like it almost felt like even like the barbecue scene, I felt like it was even forced to some point because they were like, if you notice, like a lot of the at home stuff, there was nothing. Like it was very boring. The back half of the season was very boring.
I'm like, prove Milton and Lydia actually went to dinner with his family. He's like, yeah, my mom loves her. They go out a couple times a week. I'm like, really? Where was one photo? It looks like she's been there and you've been there because there was like 3 selfies of them
Yeah.
and then like nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy to me. Like it's So it's again, the validity, there's something there. We know that. And I mean, we know that there is another situation that's going on right now that is very alarming and very troubling. And it's like at some point in time, maybe the producers need to have the conversation. How do we move forward to best represent this experiment, and B, to protect the people that are involved in this situation? You know what I mean?
Why
Like you're
can't a
not
security guard be in the next room? Why?
right.
Like they say, I swear,
They have
perfect
trained,
match
something or whatever at
outside
all
the door
times.
even, and all you
Yes.
have to do, they have an earpiece in, that's fine, whatever, they have to pull it out when they hear sex, that's not that bad. But didn't on Perfect Match, didn't someone even say, that was one of the first shows where I ever heard someone break the fourth wall and be like, this was fucking weird, I'm spending the night with someone I just met. It's like somebody got severe anxiety before going to bed.
Francesca like had a breakdown
Yes.
over it. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
and it's like that's so real. You are sharing a bed and house with someone that you don't know at all,
yeah,
like at all.
like and sure, there's cameras everywhere, but it takes 3 seconds for something to happen, and it could alter and change somebody's life forever. Period.
A hundred
You know what I
percent.
mean? Like and even the producers admit for Love Is Blind, on the Love Is Blind aspect of the thing, at least with Perfect Match, you have cameras. You're filming in a tight window for these,
Yes.
let's just say 10 days. You have the cameras going 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Love Is Blind, they say we don't film everything. So that means if you're
Mm-hmm.
forcing somebody to be with somebody that's in an uncomfortable position, as the accusations with Renee and Carter are, that means if you knew Carter was, and this is all accusations, I'm not accusing anybody of
Right.
anything. This is just me stating that the protection needs to be there. If you're stating Carter, if you believe, let's just say Bob is a bad human being, and it's with, you know,
Jessica.
Jessica, there we go, Bob and Jessica, and you know Jessica is terrified of Bob,
Mm-hmm.
and you say, hey, look, try to make it work. What is that? You can't do that. You know what I mean? And
Or
if
like
people
if you're
fear for
willing
her
to do
life,
that, how do you in good conscience, okay, so you're like, all right, we're not filming all the time. There'll be one camera in there, it'll be mounted up. But on top of that, you have to convince us very heavily when something bad's happened. Because like they also mentioned like they have to bring it forward. Like if they basically like see no evil, nothing. It
yeah,
didn't happen.
exactly. Right.
Hear it,
You
it
know what I mean?
happened. Hear it, like we'll ignore it too. Like we need
Yeah.
concrete.
And the thing about it is Miles, the old adage, where there's smoke, there's fire. You know what I mean? There has been a lot of smoke that comes out of this show, and not a lot of, people backing up, the producers saying, I think all of the wrong things. Fix the issues. You know what I mean? Yes, at the end of the day, we all love watching this trash. That's the reason why Leah and I are having this conversation today, because we love watching trash. We talked for 30 minutes before this show even started about trash. We love it. But we also understand that there is a human element of this show that I think a lot of people lose sight of as well. But to spin some
Completely agree.
positivity, what are you watching right now? Good, bad. I'll tell you what. I know there's one thing I'm watching, House of Villains. I think I might give up on the show.
I'm giving up on it as well.
Are you? Good.
I have
Smart.
to. And it's just
It's
because I'm watching it on YouTube TV anyways. When you rewatch it, there's 5 minutes of commercials between every
I
few
hate
minutes.
commercials.
I can barely get through it. But the competitions aren't that enjoyable. No one's talking about it. Like I sometimes I love a show so much I want to put everyone onto it, and I'll keep posting content. No one's it's crickets. I go to Twitter, nothing. No videos on TikTok, and it's like I just don't want to cover a show when there's so much else. Have you seen that Gypsy Rose is getting out of prison in December?
No, I didn't.
So Gypsy Rose is getting out of prison in December. Anyone unfamiliar, reminder, she was the one whose mother made her be sick. I think it's called Munchausen
Oh,
proxy
yes, I
syndrome.
did. That's who that is. The name rung a
Yes.
bell. Oh my God. Yes.
Okay.
How?
So she's getting out of prison soon, December. And I would encourage everyone who's like wondering the story to go watch The Act on Hulu. I just watched it. I know I'm 3 years late, but just watching it in spite of her getting out, it gives so many questions. Should she have ever been sent to jail? What was wrong with her mom? What happened to another character that gets involved? I won't spoil it in case
Yes.
people haven't seen it, but I'm watching
Insane.
that.
Yes, it's fantastic, fantastic show. You know what I mean? I do remember when I saw that she was getting on, and it's like it's such a weird thing. Like I love stuff like this because it's like, man, like you I want to know more. You know what I mean? Like,
Same,
you know what I
obsessed.
mean? Like, I
Like
don't
I
feel
want to
like
know all
I
of
get
it.
enough. Like, it's those. I'll tell you what, man. Them crime shows wrap you in just as much as this reality TV stuff can. You know what I mean? The Murdo murders. That
Yes,
thing had me. The second part of that came out, and I was consumed by this.
same.
And it's always crazy to me. And this kind of touches on the Stephen Avery thing for Making a Murderer. It's like it's crazy to me to watch people, especially not now. Stephen Avery wasn't rich, but the Murdo murders. That guy was loaded. Like you had everything. You had your cake and eating it too. You even got away with some shit, but then you commit another murder. It's like, bro, like you
And
got
how
away
many
with.
And it's so funny how many different ways there are to say that guy's name too. Because after I went down the rabbit hole with him, and I'm like, let me listen to this guy in court. He calls himself Alec. Wait, what does he say? Alec Murdoch. Murdoch.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, Murdoch. Like, who
yeah.
the fuck is this? But that swept me. If you haven't seen Suburban Scaries, I'm just starting it, so I can't confirm if it's good on Peacock. But it's supposed to be real. Have you watched it?
It's so
Was it
bad.
bad? Fuck. I couldn't get into episode 1, and I was really hoping that like something else would reel me in because it's like real life accounts, but
There's okay. The concept of the idea of the
concept
show
is
is
great.
really fantastic. The
Hmm.
execution. Have you ever watched a bad documentary where they do reenactments?
Yes.
That's exactly what this reminded me of. There's bad acting. The stories are actually fantastic. There's one, it's called like the Bunny Man or whatever it is. I actually really liked the
Yeah, that one
concept
kind of
of it.
scared me to read about.
It's like really I would say just watch it just for like if you want to just turn it on to turn it on, just if you're looking
Right.
for something to watch while you're bored to death. It's not that bad, but it's pretty terrible. Like it's a pretty hard, like there's some of the episodes are pretty hard to watch because they're so bad.
I'm
Like
not
it's
gonna
just,
watch it then. I'll skip
yeah,
it.
the acting is so bad in that. What I am excited about though, I'm excited about, we talked a little bit, I haven't watched it yet. I want to watch Surviving Paradise.
Oh
It's a
yes.
new show. 9 episodes dropped on Netflix. If you're listening to this, it's probably already been out. But contestants, this is actually a pretty cool idea. Reality competition players must form an alliance and fight to move from the wilderness into this luxurious villa for a shot at a huge cash prize. Basically, the contestants start off in the wilderness camping, relying on strategy and tactics. Players will have to build alliances to win a place in the villa. Those who secure a ticket in the paradise by the end of the game will have a chance of winning a huge cash prize.
Netflix loves these shows. Did you see Snowflake Mountain? It sounds just like it. That show was
Yeah,
crazy.
there's what was the other, there was another one too
The
that they
Mole.
had. No, the mole actually. I didn't watch the most reiteration of the mole until after. I was mad because I already knew who won, so I stopped watching it because I
Yeah,
watched it after Perfect Match.
valid.
So, you know what I mean. So it kind of made me mad. The I like the Traders. Have you ever watched the Traders that came out
Oh,
earlier this year?
love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we talked about it. We did because the new cast. I don't even know anybody that's on the fucking show.
I didn't even know the new cast was dropped for Traders.
Yes, the new cat.
I
Yeah, the new cat. Yes,
uh,
the new
okay, I'll
cast
have
is
to look
already
into
out.
it because I've been watching Special Forces, which is actually funny. If you're not watching Special Forces, you should watch it. It's kind of fun to root for Jack Osborne. He has MS and he's doing really well in the competition. It's fun to watch Tom Sandoval get punched in the face. Um, Tyler Cameron from Bachelor throws up and it looks like a horror film. I've never seen more vomit come out of someone's mouth ever. It's impressive to the point where everyone should see it at least once.
I I so it's funny to me when all these people bash that Tom Sandoval guy. I only hate him because of your videos and your content. but I don't even know what this guy ever fucking did. So it's like, it's funny to me, like everybody like hates this guy, and I'm like, man, I don't even know who the hell this guy is, but I hate him just because everybody else hates him. And like
Good.
I saw the one video of him like almost like damn near in tears. I really wanted to watch this Special Forces show, and that between the two things I'm envious of that you're watching, and I commented this on your other one. I'm really sad I'm missing this Golden Bachelor right
You should
now.
be. Yep.
And I'm almost to the point now, like I'm out of town next week. I don't know how many episodes are left of the Golden Bachelor, but like part of me wants to just like dive into the middle of the season just to watch the rest of it. You know
You
what I mean?
should.
I just it looks like, apparently it's like super sad because of these people are like old, obviously older and stuff like that. But that
It hits a few chords. I agree.
and then that and the I never watched what you just said the name of the show with Tom
Special
Sandoval there.
Forces.
Special Forces, yeah. That show actually looks pretty cool. You know what I mean? So
I think you would like it. I think it's like a show that you could throw on and like, are you watching Fuckboy Island or no? Did you already see it?
so I watched the first two episodes of Fuckable Island. I'm about to watch the third one this weekend before it airs on Monday.
Okay,
Spoiler alert,
cool.
sorry, I'm a cool guy, but um I like it. I
I
didn't
like
watch the
it.
first two seasons of the show. I had
Okay.
no it's to me it's like very similar to some of the other shows, but
Mhm.
I just love this kind of trash. You know what I mean? Like it's so good.
I love this kind of trash. The one thing I'll say that's cool is one season, a guy, super convincing. You really think him and this girl are going to ride off in the sunset. He's had a girlfriend the whole time. He takes the full $100,000, leaves her with nothing, no remorse. That was an insane season. And then another season, the girl ends up being a fuck girl. And despite all of these guys, the entire competition trying to win her heart from the very beginning, she was just going to take the full money and run. And it was epic because it was after the season where the girl got done, like did so dirty. So to like see a girl be, and she was like,
Right.
actually, I'm bisexual. I don't even like happy guys. Like I'm more into
That's
the girls. It
that's
was really
fucking
fun.
fantastic. I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, it's time is a I mean, I told you I was sick, so like I lost a lot of time. And the last show I had watched before I got sick. Maybe I got sick because of House of Villains because it was so bad. I don't know. I was I had I so basically what I do is I write, like I told you, I keep running notes as I watch these shows, and that's when I do my shows, and I just kind of go through my running notes and talk about them as I do it. And I'm like, I never ended up filming that episode because I got too sick. And I'm like, I watched the first two episodes. This is boring. The first two episodes, like, are we up to episode 3 on TV yet?
Yeah.
Like nobody
Like
got
that'll be
eliminated.
next week
Right. Next
because
week's I think episode 3,
yeah.
right? We're
Yes.
2 episodes. Like no, like we had a bonfire, whatever. If you're a Survivor person ever. I don't watch Survivor now, but like you had a bonfire of people putting 2 people up for elimination, and like we go a whole nother episode, nobody got eliminated.
I like Omarosa's carrying the show. I don't even have to see her on another show to know that she's carrying the show. If it wasn't for her in New York, I would probably be not interested at all. The show lost me this week when I had to hear about Jack's financials. And you don't watch Vanderpump, so he won't rub you the wrong way.
I saw the
But
clip of Shaq talk like I saw the clip where he's like, dude, I'm doing this wrong. And he's like, why? And he was like, why does this guy need $200,000?
exactly. He's like, I make $450,000 alone on Cameo. My wife just signed a $2 million deal with Jenny Craig. I'm
Right.
like, and you're not shit. Like, so
Yeah.
I just wish that you weren't like there's too many people that bother me, but go Tiffany Pollard. I also like I think her name's Tanisha. I like
Yes.
the one girl who was from Bad Girls Club who's like in the hallway banging the pots and pans, like telling everybody to shut up. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I was a big there were I can and you have people like Omarosa. I love like Omarosa was cool like 15 years ago when I watched her. Like we talked, like she was cool when she was on The Apprentice. She was a boss ass bitch. I'm not saying she's not a boss ass bitch anymore, so calm down, everybody. But like she's still a boss ass bitch. But like,
it's the political views. It's the fact that she was literally on Trump's admin for a while. And then
right,
yes, she left, but she really didn't shit talk him until he did her dirty. So it's like
right.
I root for her in the sense that she's a successful Black woman, and I support that. And to see her in a high up space I can imagine that sometimes you have to put yourself in positions with people you don't align with to just get there and get
Yeah,
to that spot. So if that's what happened, I can completely understand that.
for sure.
And she's a legend in her own right, but the
Yeah,
Trump thing, that's also why
yeah.
people don't like her too. And she's kind of irrelevant.
And it's like some of these people are like, are they really villains? Are they just
No,
assholes?
they're not
Like,
even villains.
like
Truly, some people are not villains. They're just people of color. Because like Shake's not even a villain. He's not even a
no,
villain. Like he's all
no.
he did was say she was rude. That's what he was. He was
Yeah,
rude.
he was a dick. You know what I
He was a
mean? And it
dick.
was like, yeah, I mean, villain to me, like you have to have like,
Scheming. Like fair play is the
yes,
good villain that's there.
fair,
And
fantastic. I love fair
bananas.
play. Banana, yeah, banana. Oh man, I've only had my one run in with Johnny Bananas. I was rooting for him. I had somebody comment one day and say, "You're rooting for the wrong guy because this guy will backstab everybody." I'm like, that kind of sounds like a guy I like anyway. But you know what I mean? Like that's my kind of jam. You know what I mean? It is one of the type of thing. But I will say this: if you have time to just go back and watch a show that just got finished airing, it was called Fight to Survive. It was on the CW. It was a kind of more of a, I even saw some of the producers talking about it. It was like a show that was birthed out of COVID. You know what I mean? Like they birthed it out of COVID as like an idea. He said the first season they had to play around with a bunch of different ideas. Basically, you have a mix of like Survivor ish in it, but it's a little bit more cutthroat. When you get to the island, you fight for resources. Like whenever you like, you can when you get to the island, the first person to find the water resource, like that's your thing. Like you're the water resource
Oh,
person. But you have
okay.
this like little necklace medallion that you have to wear. But like every day, somebody can bang the drum and fight you for the resource. And the
Ah,
fighting you is like you have this totem. They put you in the middle of this arena. It's like a little circle, and you have the totem, and you have to pull it. And the first person to get the totem out of the arena wins the competition, and then you can win that person's resource. Or if the person that, like, so if I challenged you and I lost, I would go home.
ha.
But if I beat you, I would get. Now they never
Oh my
did it where it
God.
was like man versus woman. Like you got to pick a tag team partner basically.
Hmm.
Um, and people got mad because there was like this one group that they basically like won all the competitions. They all like backstabbed everybody. I'm like, welcome to reality TV. Like,
Right.
hello. But it was actually pretty good. I do think that there are some things that they need to alter. They said that if they got a season two, that they would. It's hard when you get to the finale and you have like one guy and three girls left. Like, how are you going to have them battle over uh, a competition of strength? You know what I mean? And
Right.
stuff like that. So they have things. They did. They never made a woman face a man, which was fantastic. It was more of a tag, like I said,
Yeah.
tag team match. It was a man and a man, woman and a woman. You tag teamed with each other, type of thing. There was things that they could fix, but it's pretty good. Like it's not great by any stretch, but I enjoyed it. Like it's an
What was
easy
it called
watch.
again?
Fight to Survive.
Okay, cool. I'll write that down.
Yeah,
I
it's
watched
pretty good.
Survive the Raft and I hated it. So it's
I
different than
never
that.
even. I'm gonna have to like start communicating. We're gonna have to start communicating more about some of these shows because sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what these shows are. But
Definitely.
I will say this: if you're listening to this, I'm more than likely going to impress the entire world by watching the very first episode of my entire life of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I'm going to watch season 13, episode one, and I will recap it, not knowing a single thing about any of these women on this show. So I'm looking forward to that. Do you have anything coming out in the near future that people can, and where can people find you? All of that. Give everybody your social medias, your podcast, all that good stuff.
So follow me on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts at Positively Uncensored. It's like a little Lizzie McGuire-esque icon, 90s kids. You'll know the reference. You can also find me on Instagram, TikTok. I post most frequently on TikTok, frequent recaps. I try to give spoiler alerts. Right now I'm watching Bachelor in Paradise, Golden Bachelor. I'm recapping both of those things. I'm gonna start doing recaps on Southern Charm, which is a show everybody's loving. Waiting for the Real Housewives of New York reunion. All things reality you can count on me for if it's on Bravo, probably.
Yeah, and if you're listening, folks, I'll drop her links to her social medias and the podcast here in the podcast notes, and then of course on the YouTube as well. Leah, thank you for your time today. It was a blast.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. I definitely want to come back on, and I'll have you on my podcast too.
I can't wait.